was nice, funny, strong, caring.
It was his dream to work in the Moscow Philharmonic Orchestra, which was one of the two, I believe, most prominent orchestras in Russia and probably in the world at the time. So I believe it took him 13 auditions, 13 years to get to that orchestra, because it was very competitive. He went every day to work like people would go to the shrine, or a cathedral or something spiritual. And of course, it's allowed him to see the world. It's allowed him to play with accompanying musicians like Van Cliburn and Isaac Stern, and play with fabulous conductors. One of the very emotional memories for him was being part of the premiere of Shostakovich's 13th Symphony.
It was an extremely difficult subject. Baby Yar was about massacre of Jews during the World War II in Ukraine. It was difficult to perform this premiere for, first of all, the conductor, who agreed, and for the composer, who had the courage to pick up that topic. All musicians in the orchestra, they were part of it, and they were both excited and probably also extremely scared. He was very proud of it.
Бетховен. Концерт для фортепиано, скрипки и виолончели с оркестром. Солисты. Народный артист Советского Союза, лауреат Ленинской премии Святослав Рихтер, народный артист Советского Союза, лауреат Ленинской премии Давид Ойстров и народный артист Советского Союза, лауреат Ленинской премии Мстислав Ростропович.
It was a really prestigious job to be a musician in Moscow Philharmonic. At the time, people in Russia didn't travel anywhere. The country was a closed country, so all we knew about the West is something we saw in some few movies, which were like through black market shown in the kitchen TVs. He was one of the lucky ones. He worked in the orchestra and traveled the world, and he would come back and tell us all these wonderful stories about malls and people living in the houses and beautiful clean roads. Somewhat idealistic view of West. He really has seen the entire world. I felt very proud of him. The fact that I've eventually emigrated to the United States, that seed was planted in me those years when I was a child, and he was bringing things like Coca-Cola. I tried Coca-Cola first time. I felt like I'm drinking liquid gold, really. My father was born in Moscow in 1934. His father was a conductor. And so my father had this love of music from early age. He started playing violin when he was 4, And he never put his violin down ever in his life. That was his favorite thing to do. Normally, you know, when a little child is taking music lessons, we have to bribe them to practice. My dad was bribed not to practice.
I was waking up, I heard he is fiddling some difficult concertos, Elgar, Bartok concertos.
Сначала он долго искал там, что находил какие-то пальцы, ставил, примерялся. То есть это долгий был процесс. А потом играл 5-6 часов каждый день. И он так надоел соседям там, что его просили прекратить заниматься. Как-то играли в малом зале консерватории, и я, и он. Там где-то за кулисами познакомились. Ну, а потом стали ходить на концерты скрипачей. И тут уже начались какие-то более интересные какие-то встречи, разговоры, обсуждения. Я считалась очень хорошей скрипачкой там. Может быть, это на него произвело какое-то впечатление. Ну, он был влюблен, он был очень сильно влюблен, несмотря на то, что он очень практичный от природы, очень практик большой. И не тратил времени никогда ни на что. Но он каждый день приезжал ко мне, далеко, достаточно далеко. Цветов не было. Меня больше заинтриговало то, что он играл на фортепиано. Когда он садился за фортепиано и читал с листа, это, понимаю, только музыканты, и фортепианную фактуру трудную читал запросто, и даже пианисты говорили, что он читает с листа гораздо лучше, чем пианисты.
I am the oldest child. When I turned 11, my parents decided to have another child, and so my brother Mark was born. And even before he was born, it was decided that he's going to be the violinist. When it was time for my parents to decide what instrument would I play, they decided they need a free pianist in the family, they need an accompanist. So they took me by hand and took me to music school to practice piano. Our parents didn't see us doing anything else in life. It's kind of tradition in Eastern Europe, you know, for parents to pass their craft to the children. From early childhood, they knew that we're going to be professional musicians, and if you're planning to be a professional musician, you have to enter training very early. You can't like wait till you're 12 or 15 to think what you want to do in the future. The only thing which could compete with my dad's eternal love for violin and orchestra music were his grandchildren.
I do remember him putting down the violin and us going for walks when I was a little kid. It's probably like 4 or 5. I remember snowing in Moscow, and we would walk down the street and I'd identify like some Soviet car, and he would tell me whether I got it right or wrong, you know. So I'd say, oh, that's a Volga, or that's like a Niva. So, yeah, that's right.
He loved his granddaughters enormously. He was a very caring grandfather. He was guarding their strollers when they were little.
Alice was born, we lived in Houston. I remember twice a week he was taking a bus to go to Houston just to hang out to see Alice, the little girl.
My grandpa was really nice, and he was really funny, and he always made us laugh. And together at night when we were sleeping over at his house, he would always read us a book until we were asleep.
Actually, my parents adjusted to US life a lot quicker than I would expect. They made a lot of friends. They had some students. They were playing very often for musical bridges around the world. They formed a quartet with Robin Abrahams. They performed for churches and for retirement communities, and they just loved to play and they loved people.
And it was really neat to see people being able to bond and speak the same language through music.
Я никогда соло не играла, а здесь, когда мы с Юрой оказались, тут пошли уже дуэты, и даже нас пригласили на гастроли в другой штат. Мы дали там 2 концерта, и нас обозвали виртуозы Сан-Антонио.
To the great extent, musical bridges was born kind of effortlessly, because when first concerts took place, who played? You know, well, mostly my family and my friends. That's how we were born, and it's amazing, you know, what we've become in 23 years. I consider musical bridges to be indirectly one of my father's legacies. We became musicians greatly because he wanted us to, and if I wouldn't be a musician, musical bridges probably wouldn't be born. If I wouldn't have that drive that my dad has, which you kind of like don't give up. I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse, but that's one of the qualities you have to have in order to create and run a nonprofit.
He was absolutely great, outstanding man, extraordinary in every aspect. Can you imagine that someone never get bored, never be lazy? I never seen him being depressed or something. He was always working.
У него было такое, понимаете, организация, что он преодолевал. Он все время что-то преодолевал.
We went to a really good restaurant, and my mom and my grandpa were making a concert there, and then I played clowns, and he played clowns on the violin, and then I got paid a little bit, and then the disco went on with music so we could dance.
We admired each other as musicians, and whenever we met, he was always like, let's read through this music, or let's read through that music, and he was always curious to find new stuff or read through some new music. I always said yes when he was asking me, so yeah, I loved making music with him.
He was like a music computer. Could you imagine that one day, I have a conversation with him. I tell my father, like, I feel very jealous for pianists because we violinists, we have only one voice and we're missing the whole harmony like pianos. He said, oh, no problem. So he sits to the piano and he started playing this incredibly hard sonata for piano. He hadn't played it maybe for 50 years. He could play Rachmaninoff concerto. Of course, his hands was already old in arthritis, but he still remembers the Greek concerto, Rachmaninoff concerto. He was just an amazing man.
He never stopped moving, as we say. He still taught. Sometimes one of his students was a physician, and she was telling me, Anya, I look at him and I wonder if he's alive or not. But he would refuse to stop working, He was teaching and he was playing every day. He was playing his violin. I admire about my dad his dedication to his craft and really dedication to his family. What a tender grandfather he was.
He told me, Mark, when you get older, you forgot everything that you had in your life. Who you played with, who you met, conversation, people, everything gets forgotten. The only thing you stay with it's your family, your children, your grandchildren, and etc.
When I was little, we went to get hot chocolate at a place, and then he drank his, and he said, "Can I have some of yours?" And I said, "Only from my hands." And it was really funny.
My dad was famous for his fabulous sense of humor. In his orchestra, people were writing down his jokes and just passing it around because he was like a classic comedian.
He was very, very social, so after every possible concert, he would go to the musicians backstage and he would ask them a lot of questions, what they play with, what kind of instrument they play.
Он играл хорошо в шахматы. Хорошо. Однажды он играл даже с чемпионом мира Таль. Он, правда, проиграл. Но держаться полчаса с Талем очень почетно.
I remember one time we were in the Czech Republic and we went to the open air market. And all Yuri brought was a broken calculator. And he found some cherries that he liked. So he was able to make a deal with the guy selling the cherries for this broken calculator. And so having seen this, I thought that Yuri was a genius.
But now becoming a lawyer, I try and do deals that in the best interest of my client all the time. I feel like that's something that I probably picked up from Yuri.
He was my best friend truly through all life, through all people.
Он был очень скромный, он совершенно не любил хвастаться. А он объездил мир. И иногда его спрашивают, как ты живешь? Он говорит, хуже всех.
Yuri also had unattainable standards, whether it's cakes or fruits or musicians or music. So if he highly disliked something, that means he really didn't like it. But if he disliked it, that means it was okay. And if it was okay, that means it was great.
He had a huge desire to live and make music, always. He basically was practicing in hospital halls.
Запирался в какой-нибудь комнате, которая свободна в это время, и занимался. И все сестры говорили, вы двери не закрывайте, мы хотим вас слушать.
He had a very strong personality and very strong opinions on everything. So he would, at the hospital, he would give advices to doctors and nurses, and then he would go practice on violin.
Он не привык ни минуты тратить без инструмента. Он был такой влюбленный в скрипку, в занятия. Он просто жил этим.
The last piece we practiced, it was a Richard Strauss violin sonata, which is extremely difficult for both violinist and pianist. And he had a dream to learn it all and to play it and record it, so he was working on it.
Go practice. My father's best advice in life to anybody. Go practice. For this memorial video for our father, Mark and I are going to attempt to play a piece for you from different parts of the world. I'm here at Musical Bridges office, as you can see, and Mark is in Moscow. So we're going to attempt to play for you Salute d'Amour by Elgar. This is for you, Papa.